Please give a round of applause to Gordy Howe, Account Executive on Marketing Solutions here at LinkedIn.
Thank you, Mike, for having me today.
Now, Gordy, it's a pleasure to have you here. Gordy, the reason we have you on here today is we want to talk about your journey of what you're training for, ultimately to complete an Ironman. And for those that aren't aware of what an Ironman is, it's a triathlon that goes to the extreme. So it's 2.4 miles swim.
Yep.
It is a 112-mile bicycle ride. And if that's not enough, you follow up with a marathon. So 26.2 miles running. Why? Why, Gordy? Why are you setting this as a goal?
So one of the main reasons I got into triathlons was, I realized in our day-to-day, right, a lot of times we focus so much in our work and we don't really set priorities or challenges for us outside of work. So how I really got into triathlons and Ironmans is really kind of seeking a challenge, right? And my first triathlon really came upon me by accident. One day I was in the gym with a few, fellow teammates, fellow coworkers within kind of our LinkedIn Marketing Solutions AE team. And we were kind of sitting there and realizing that, we come to the gym every day and really don't have a key focus or goal that we're setting for ourselves. So what we decided that day was kind of out of the blue, we signed up for our first triathlon in Monterey, and this was October 2017. So little did they know at that time, I didn't know how to swim. So I signed up for a triathlon knowing that I didn't know how to swim, but willing to take on the challenge. And over a few weeks, a few months, I really kind of just found a gym, learned how to swim, and went about going after this challenge and something that I knew was going to be very difficult.
That's great. I'm going to put a pin in that about not knowing how to swim and revisit that a little bit later on in the conversation. But talk to me a little bit about some of the benefits you have seen come to you through this training that maybe you didn't expect to see.
Absolutely. So I think some of the main benefits I've seen and some of the challenges we kind of discussed before the show is time management. And going into something like an Ironman, you realize how much time and effort and commitment is going to be needed to accomplish this goal. And one of the added benefits that I've noticed is kind of looking within myself and kind of exploring, from a time management standpoint, how am I able to better myself, create opportunities for me to achieve this goal. And what I've really noticed is, by looking into myself and looking at my lifestyle, is developing life hacks and areas where I could really find time and create opportunities to better enhance my experience and my effectiveness. So I think one example that came about kind of through my experience is, one thing you realize kind of from a time management standpoint, and I think a lot of times you make excuses of, I don't have time to train or things like that, is, I realized I like working out in the morning, right? And one of the areas kind of that takes up a lot of my day is, you wake up, you're kind of fumbling around looking for your clothes, what shirt am I going to wear today? What workout am I going to do? One of the hacks that I've created for myself is kind of packing up the clothes that I'm going to wear the next day, getting all my exercise gear ready so that when I wake up, I could grab my bag and hit the floor running. Cutting about 20-25 minutes per day, just kind of finding efficiency.
That's great.
Process.
Life hacks are great. So that's a great one to make sure we're prepared ahead of time, and that preparation sets you up for the success that you obviously are having so far with your training. So tell us what you've completed so far in your training. You've done a sprint triathlon or a sprint Ironman, is that right?
Correct. So I've done an Olympic triathlon, which is kind of the typical 0.9 mile swim, 26 mile bike ride, and then a 6 mile run. I've done a half Ironman, which is a 1.2 mile swim, a 56 mile bike ride, and then a half marathon, which is a 13-mile run.
That's great.
And then next month I'll be doing and taking on my first Ironman. So.
That's great. Well, good luck on that. So you went back, going back to what you led off with, where you and your coworkers were in the gym, and you were sort of there because I imagine that exercise was maybe part of your life growing up. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like a new habit you had to form, but it was something you did. But you were doing it, for lack of a better term, without purpose.
Right.
Is that a fair thing to say? And then even to tie that back into our wellness tenets, our thoughts tenet is rooted in intention setting. Mm-hmm. And when we set that intention, obviously, then we can take the actions necessary to complete what it is that we want to do. Can you speak a little bit about the importance of having that purpose when you are setting out to achieve something?
Definitely. I think one of the things, and I always go back to this, is, in our professional lives, right, we always have goals, right? Working in a sales org, we have quotas to hit. I'm sure if you're working in engineering or product, you have timelines and deliverables that you hit. And sometimes we get so entrenched in our work lives, we really kind of forget about our personal lives and some of those goals and challenges we're able to hit. From an intention setting standpoint, I think, especially with physical fitness, a lot of times it's easy to make excuses if you don't have a challenge or a goal that you're setting your intentions for, right? What creates urgency in terms of your workouts and maximizing your time when you are working out is having these goals. So something I always like to say is kind of from an Ironman standpoint or triathlon standpoint or any race you do, is the race day is kind of a embodiment of all your training. It's kind of a celebration for all the hard work you put in. But the real race actually happens on a day-to-day basis while you're training and preparing for these, tasks or events.
Yeah, that's great. Let's go back to swimming. So growing up, you were a college baseball player.
Yes.
Is that correct? Obviously, you weren't a swimmer.
Not
in high school or college.
Still a borderline swimmer.
Well, you made it out of the water at least to get here,
yes,
so that's
yes,
good.
Yes.
You also then signed up for the first triathlon before you knew how to swim. Mm-hmm. And when we talked, before the show, I thought how important it was, and you exemplified it also in doing that as opposed to doing the reverse, saying like, oh, I'll learn how to swim, and then when I do that, then I'll sign up.
Right.
Can you talk about how important it was for you and how valuable you find that to have actually committed to doing something prior to having the skills to do so?
Absolutely. So I think we've discussed this in the past, is getting started is probably the hardest part of a journey and committing to something. I think a lot of times the reason why people aren't able to kind of finalize or fully commit to something is they'll make excuses along the way saying that, first I'll learn how to swim, then I'll sign up for a triathlon. Or, maybe I'll get my weight to this point before I sign up for a race, right? And a lot of times along the journey, if you're not able to hit those milestones, you end up not committing and actually doing that event. So I knew for myself personally, setting a goal and saying, for this end date, I will be doing this race, will help me fully commit into, learning how to swim and being able to accomplish that task.
That's awesome, Gordy. Thank you for that. What bit of advice would you give to someone who's looking to get started and maybe not thinking about an Ironman or things that intense, but someone who maybe their goal is just to be a little bit more active during the day, to get off the couch a couple more times than they do already?
Mm-hmm. I think my big advice for anyone looking to just start moving and getting going is to not be afraid to start, right? I think that is kind of the biggest point of barrier for a lot of people. I think surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals, whether on your team directly. I'm lucky enough to work within kind of the marketing solutions org, where from the top down, we have leaders that are very active and promote a very healthy and well lifestyle. So finding kind of hobbies that you enjoy, I think, is really important, because I think the one thing you never want to forget is kind of the why. So why are you doing this, right? And a lot of times it comes to promoting your health, your longevity, your physical and mental wellness. So I think, never forgetting the why, remembering why you're doing, certain things to enjoy it.
That's great, because sometimes it's rough, and it's good to go back to that why that gives us that comfort to keep moving forward.
Exactly.
So Gordy, remind us again now, when is the Ironman?
May 11th.
May 11th in Santa Rosa.
Yes.
Fantastic. And what's the goal?
So the goal right now, besides finishing, is finishing around 12 hours, 12 to 13 hours.
That's nothing. Normal work day here at LinkedIn.
Another day.
Well, Gordy, we wish you all the best. We know you're going to crush it. We can't wait to read about on LinkedIn the success that you do have. Thank you for sharing your story with us. A round of applause for Gordy Howell.